Good afternoon to everybody, or good morning, according to where you might be. My name is Peter Mullen from American Consumer Credit Counseling. You're joining us for one of our 2 webinars that we do every month. They're always free, and they always are various topics on current, relevant things having to do with consumer finances of some sort, and we drill down into all different areas. My company is a nonprofit in the Boston area. And what we do is we provide not only free financial literacy, free financial counseling to individuals, but also we do have some things that go deeper, and such as if someone finds themselves in deep debt, there's what's called a debt management plan. There's other levels of counseling that we do. Those have a cost affiliated with it, but again, we have a lot of services that are available for general folks all over the country. I'm glad to say that because of the whole virtual capability, we used to just travel in our little cars all around New England. Now we're everywhere. So thank you for joining us today. Today, very interesting. We're talking about what I'm calling making smart goals, but making smart goals smarter. So I think this will be good. I saw as you know, when everyone registers, we had over 30 people registered today, and a lot of people talked about habits that they have that they want changed. So I'm really going to talk about 2 things today, the making the smart goals, but then the habits that they need to do that make the smart goals and any financial planning better. So I'm trying to address what people had brought up in their comments. We had about, 15 states register for today. 31 people. We have about only about 4 or 5 people on right now, but hopefully that will grow with time. So thank you for joining us. Just to let you know also, we have coming up this month, we have 2 more webinars as we do every month. The one on February 2nd is on taxes. On February 24th is about managing finances as a couple. Very interesting one. But for right now, you're in a listen-only mode. I'll be working with my colleague Rayanne, who at times will send questions that come into the chat. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in and Rayanne will notify me. In the meantime, I'll be using some of your questions you brought me in the registration. So let's get started with today and what this is all about. So the workshop today is to implement and to identify and end the key elements of a SMART goal, which is a classic thing. It was actually built around, people may not know, around 40 years ago. But it's been a great framework for getting things done. And implement the best practices to make it work, right? I hope that folks here are here to have it actually work, not just set them and look at them, but to make it work. So the second part of this is to learn the techniques to reinforce and solidify the underlying habits. And that's the key. I'm calling it the scaffolding. Just like when you build a house, you don't just start building a house. You often put scaffolding on the outside. That's the framework that helps it happen. And then before you know it, you take the scaffolding away and the building is standing. So we're going to start out with making your dreams come true. This is all about trying to turn your dreams into reality. The way we do that is through SMART goals. SMART goals by themselves sometimes aren't enough. So we're going to talk about how we make them smarter, how we make the habits, add the habits, link the habits, feed the habits, and starve the bad habits. That's our mission for today. I hope that hope this works for you. As always, you can always contact me. At the very beginning, you saw my name. It's Peter Mullen. You can reach me at pmullen@consumercredit.com if you have questions or comments following this. Also, just to let you all know, you are going to receive a copy of this PowerPoint deck. You're going to receive a copy of this tape if you want to see it later. And then finally, there will be an evaluation that you can fill back and give us some further feedback. So that's it. Thank you for joining us today. So, making your dreams come true. Aren't we all in this place that we all have things that we're thinking about? This is what I think for a lot of folks who I work with. I work in all kinds of places. They think, oh, I'd love to buy these things. I wish there was a money tree Wish there was ways to get this done. How can I have that? Maybe a knight in shining armor will save me from some of these issues, these bills. A lot of you mentioned sticking to a goal, trying to make the money work, trying to do a budget, trying to do savings. They're all challenging. Yes, they are, but there's a way to make it work. Hey, maybe if I hit the lottery, that'll be one way to solve my problem. Some of these might work, but what is the likelihood? How about inheritance? Some of you, I don't know what you can do if you're an adult, if you're not born into it, but for some people, they're hoping, geez, maybe I can somehow be born, or maybe somebody will pass away and I can inherit a couple million. Well, these are all ways to do it, but what I would say is probably the more realistic for most of us is trying to build what's called SMART goals. And that, of course, is an acronym, which we're going to talk about. That's the key of today, and then how to make it work. What is the essence of SMART goals? Well, it comes down to this. I thought this was a very well written summary of what we're doing today. A dream that's written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. And a plan backed up by action makes your dreams come true. So, just having the dream isn't enough. You can do things to make it happen. And that's what I'm talking about today. So I hope you'll stay with us. What are SMART goals? Well, SMART goals are S-M-A-R-T, and they stand for the major components of this process. Again, this was put out 40 years ago, but it's been adopted through so many financial organizations such as ours. The S in SMART is you need to make goals, and this isn't just financial, so just so you know, this could apply to other things too, but we're talking about it largely in a financial context today. You set goals with the S, it's very specific. You set a goal so that you know what the end result is, right? And here's one way to test yourself. If you write the SMART goal, somebody else should be able to look at that and say, I know what it is you're intending to do. So the S is not very long, but it's very specific. And it's also something that you care about, because motivation is key to making this work. The M in SMART is that it's measurable, and you need information along the way. As you build your SMART goal, you're not just making it out of just thin air, you're not making it up as you go. You are trying to make it have components that help you to know that this is not only possible, but I can begin to measure the parts of it. So what do we mean by the measurable parts? Well, if you think about it, if it is a money-related goal, you can begin to see, well, how much money am I saving? Am I getting closer to that $1,000 that I want? So you can measure, I have 100, then 150, then 500, you can see that. But it could also be time to meet. Part of your goal that you'll see at the end, the T part, is the timing. So maybe it's a year-long goal, and I say to myself, well, how far along am I in my year? Again, this could be a short-term goal, something less than 6 months. It could be a longer-term goal, greater than 6 months to a year. It could be 5 years. You decide, but it has to be something that you can measure. I like this term. It's turning what's vague into something that's vivid. That's what you're doing by a SMART goal. The A stands for the action-oriented. And let me just make a point here that sometimes in SMART goals, people use the A as achieve. I tend to like the action word versus the achieve word. Achieve is good too, but I think that's covered by the next letter coming up. So what is action-oriented? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. To help make a SMART goal work, there has to be actions that you do, steps you do. And that's what a lot of today is about. I'm helping to drill down into the action, or what I'm calling the habits. The habits you start to form that make this whole SMART goal work. I'm going with a premise. You all want a goal, and you want to make it happen. Well, there's things you need to do to make it happen. Has to be realistic. You got to think within the realities of your own life. The fact you have a couple kids, maybe where you live, how much money you make, the situation that you're in, how much time you have available. These are the realities of your life and all of our lives. and they're different between different people. So according to what your goal demands, try to overlay and think of the kinds of other demands that you have. For instance, a very, very important one here as an example. You have to do a budget. You know, I preach this all the time from all my sessions, and that is, unless you know truly what it is you make and what you spend, realistically, honestly, you really don't have the ability to know what is available, what's the leftover monies by which you can do things with. It could be savings, it could be toward a goal, could be toward vacation, it could be toward any number of things, paying down debt. But you have to have done a budget first. And then last part of this SMART goal is that the T is timely, very, very important. To make this realistic and happen, you've got to set some time constraints on this. So once you start your SMART goal, the clock is started. And you have done the best you can to identify, is this going to be a SMART goal for 1 month, 6 months, 1 year? You define what you need to get to by what certain time frame. That's what helps you be honest about it, and this is what gives you that one of the M's in measurement, in the M for measurement, your time frame you set begins to help define what you're able to do. So let me give you one last bit of advice for this as we move ahead, and that is this, that you do your best on a SMART goal, and I'm saying you certainly try to honor it. But if by any chance you're not able to make it, you can measure. There's 2 levers here you can play with. You can begin to set lower goals. You can make your measurable goal to be a smaller goal. Instead of trying to reach $5,000 in a year, maybe I say to myself, I'm going to reach $4,000 in the year. The other lever you have is time. So maybe you say, I still want to make that $5,000 goal, but I'm going to give myself 14 months, not 12 months. You play with it as you feel you need to, but it's your goal and it's written for you. Let's look at some examples that will do this. I have 3 I wanted to quickly cover, and again, rather rapidly, because I want to get into the habits part. So a goal, here's an example of a car goal, just as an example, and you'll see it's not just about money, it's about other things you've got to do. So in my fictional example here, we're trying to specifically get a Toyota Camry 4-door sedan, 6 to 10 years old, for less than $10,000. Hopefully that's clear enough that everybody knows what I'm looking for. It's not just a car, it's pretty specific. It's measurable in that I'm beginning to tell you how I'm going to make this happen, the steps, where I'm going, Cal's Cars, Mary's Motors, Joe Jalopy's, when I'm doing it, and I'm starting to look for quotes. So I'm starting to do actions that I'm holding myself accountable for. The achievable or the action, again, I have achievable here, but sometimes if people have, I like to action. It's you start to do stuff to make it happen. You research insurance quotes with a current agent, you multi-car discount, look for that. By the end of February, here we are in January, so I'm beginning to box myself in. It's realistic. I sell my old car. I'm hoping for a certain amount. It may or may not happen. But with the $2,000 I get from my old car, $2,000 from my savings, $6,000 from financing, getting a loan from my credit union, that's where I'm going to get my $10,000 from. And I'm saying I want to do all this and then finance the rest, right? Finance the $6,000 for 3 years at $174 a month. But that's based on my credit ratings, the interest rate I get, and so on. You can begin to see that I've tried to make something more specific on how I'm going to get the car. I'm basically answering who, what, when, how, and why, right? That's all placed here. So I'm going to give you 2 more examples, and then we'll get into some of the other details of habits. Let's say you're trying to buy a house or a condo. You go through the same process. And I always think examples are great. And again, I'll go through this and one more, and then I'll look for any questions or comments you have at this point. You should know what SMART is and how to use it. So, a house. I happen to live in the Boston area, huge town south of Boston is called Plymouth. I'm saying specifically the house I'm looking for. In this case here, a 2-bedroom, excuse me, 1 bath, ranch style. I don't know if in some parts of the country we have, like I said, 14 states on here today. May not know what a ranch is, just a straight ranch, rather, it's usually 1 level. 1 acre of land, 1,500 square feet. I'm telling you where it is. So you know everything about it, what I'm looking for. Measurable, in our case here, certainly the money comes into play, $400,000 for this. And again, I know that in some parts of the country, this is probably double, more than double what you would pay for the same size place. But that's the way it is here. I'm going to use $30,000 in savings, a gift from my parents, $20,000, and raise $36,000 all in 1 year. Which, if you break it out, and this is again what the math comes into play, you can divide 36 by 12, and you get $3,000 a year, $3,000 a month. So I begin to know what's the pathway I need to make this happen. So you're making this dream get more and more concrete and more specific over time. Achievable or action, I'm working with my realtor. And by the way, when you're buying a house, your realtor is critical. Someone you know and trust, by the way, because they are often your guide. You really want to take the time to get a realtor who you can work with that leads you to all the others. And if you don't trust them, or you're not comfortable with them, find a different one. They may link you to other parties, such as a lawyer, but I would say, again, always make sure they give you 3 or more references. And in the end, you're hopefully getting a good deal through that. Realistic, I know in this case here, I don't have enough money, so I'm going to cancel my vacation I was going to do this year. Cancel going out to eat and cable. That will save me $3,000 a month between our 2 checks. So I'm doing this maybe with my wife or your significant other. And so you know the math again. And then time bound. So in trying to get this house and try to make this happen, I'm saying I want to have this all done within a year by February 1st, 2023. So is this all realistic? Well, in my world, it is. I've worked it out. I just now have to keep to it. There's the catch. And for everybody here who does these SMART goals, this is the catch of human beings and all the things and comments you gave me. A lot of you said, some of you said about plans today, which is what this is about, goals. Some of you recognize making the financial goal is important, right? Making reasonable goals, setting short-term goals, making a plan. That's true. That's what SMART goals do. But the part that everyone else said, the vast majority today is, it's the habits that kill me. I know what the goal is, but I don't stick to it. I overspend. I don't keep track of the expenses. I don't do the things that I know I should do. So that's the second big part of what we'll talk about today. Let's do one more SMART example and we'll go into that. Education. Again, another high cost item. I'm going to apply to a specific college. I know what the tuition is. I'm going to live at home. This is my plan for making this work, and then apply for a work study at this certain Plymouth State College. So it hopefully is specific enough that myself and my parents know, or whatever your situation is, know what you're trying to aim for. It's measurable in the pieces of it that are relevant, right? I'm going to continue to work at my Amazon job, make this certain target by May. I'm going to try to do a work study program as well, and if accepted, or get more overtime at Amazon. So I'm going to seek a couple tracks to try and gain me the money I need to buy this education for the fall. Achievable or action, May, I'm going to talk to an Amazon manager about overtime, call the counselor at the school and say, hey, are these work studies still available? Can I be on the list? Where am I on the list? I want to know more. You have to be persistent. Realistic, I actually can make $3,000 a month through this process, May through August. Again, you do the math, saving at least $1,000. Here's again a realistic note. I'm saying to myself, I know I could make $3,000, but I only know enough to save $1,000. I have other expenses. I know my own habits here of what I do. So I'm setting a realistic portion here of saving $1,000 per month. Time-bound June decision on about the Amazon hours or the work study hours. My goal is to reach $5,000 then by August 15th. So I've taken the pieces of this education example, and hopefully through all that, I'm putting in all the other components that's going to make it work. So let me ask if there's any questions now before we get into what I call making the SMART goals even smarter. Are there any questions or comments coming in, Rayanne?
The only question I got was asking about the recording in the slides, but I answered them already that we'll email them to them.
Okay, then we're fine. Okay,
Yeah,
anything else about the topic?
No other questions about that.
Okay, thank you, Rayanne.
You're welcome.
So let's go on then, and again, just so for the person that asked that, again, you'll get the slides, you'll get a copy of the recording, and you get an evaluation at the end. That will all be sent out to you probably today. All right, now let's get to the second part, which is largely influenced by the kinds of questions that I got from you folks. As I said before, making the goal is not the hardest part. It still takes some thinking to come up with a SMART goal. It's the sticking with it that's the hard part, okay? And so I have some things, and I want to give great credit to this book I've read, and it's in my references, by the way. It's called The Budgeting Habit. So for those that want to read more, I suggest you read the book. S&R Livermore, put out in 2018, are folks that have really delved deeper into making SMART goals work. And I think it's a really great set of human reality, human psychology of what we need to do to make this work. In essence, what you're trying to do is embed the new daily, weekly, monthly activities into your life. So as an overview, if I just say, well, I want to save money, or anyone here, I'll look at all your comments. I want to set my priorities. I want to keep to my budget. I want to stay credit card and debt free. I want savings. But by sitting on a couch, as an example, or staying in the house, it's not going to happen. So what can I do? It usually takes, according to the literature I've read, about 21 days to incorporate habits into your life so they begin to stick. And that's what you're trying to get to, these habits that are not really big, but have them begin to stick. And here's the other last way to think about this before we go into the detail. Habits or things that you do are usually one of two forms within a SMART goal. They're either yes or no. Did I open the checking account that I need? Yes, I did, or no, I didn't. Or they're more of a metric quality. Have I saved the money that I'm supposed to have by week 1 or week 2 or week 3? You can put a metric on that. Say I've saved 5% of it. I've saved 20% of it. Or it's quantity based. So it's quantity based in terms of, or how much time I've done. I know I'm trying to do this in 6 months. Well, 2 months have gone by. That's 1/3. Am I 1/3 toward my goal? So that's where this all looks as an overview. Let's go into the adding of the habit then. So you will now all have a SMART goal of some sort. The habit loop is simply this. You are beginning to build a routine into your life. That's what I'm talking about, the habits. I'm calling them a routine. It's a couple habits stuck together. One of the ways to make it work is reward yourself. This is one smart way to think about it. You're doing something you want to do, give yourself a pat on the back, find something that works for you. Later on, you get another cue, and that's what we're trying to begin to have you do. Link a cue to the habits that make you do the things you really do want to do. Add the habit. Start by breaking up the goal into smaller pieces. Daily, weekly, monthly. Remember the R in realistic. So this might be some simple things, for instance, like checking your balances, recording expenses, starting to make a budget. You're starting to do some pieces underneath that help you get to the larger goal. It's not as overwhelming. You divide it up into pieces. I like this from Trent Ham, and anyone who's listened to me before knows I talk a lot about Trent Ham. So I'm happy to know that what these folks who wrote this book, and again, their names are the Livermores, they have a similar thought that Trent Ham does. He goes with this 5-4-3-2-1 method. Ask yourself this as you're going through your day. Not that you're having to focus on this all the time, but ask yourself, what can I be doing in the next 5 minutes, or the next 4 hours, 3 days, or 2 weeks, or 1 month? There's things that you can be doing along the way that help you get to the longer goal. Are there some calls I can be making today that help me open some accounts? Maybe within 4 hours, I'm going to take the chance to go ahead and review all my credit card spending and take a look at my account. Maybe within 3 days, I set a goal to myself to actually review the process, or review my progress, and see how I stand. So these are like little milestones along the way for you. It's just keeping you always in the present, but also looking and planning for the future. Rank your daily habits in terms of priority. So again, you don't want to get buried here, and I'm going to show you how not to. It's not about you having 17 new habits today. It's about you slowly beginning to add them to some of the things you already do. That's why this is so special and so workable. So maybe you, on a monthly basis, you begin to run your credit report and review your credit report for accuracy and movement. Do you need to do that every 5 minutes? No. Every 4 hours? No. Every 2 weeks? No. Probably monthly. So obviously some things fall out as to how frequently you should do them, how you can begin to make them part of your life and embed them where they belong. So maybe another one is this idea of create a phone alert so that you have a calendar visual and reminder. And I don't know why this is showing up here right now. I don't want that, but it doesn't matter. Create a phone alert, a calendar reminder, a visual trigger. There's many ways for you to begin to embed these and have them happen, and they will start to, in fact, help you out through the day. Any questions on adding the habit then coming through from folks? Anything coming through on that, Rayanne?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
I'm just saying, anything coming in on that one? Any questions, comments on that? Add the habit.
No questions about that coming in.
Okay, thank you. Let's go into then link the habit. If you've all followed along, you've made a SMART goal, you've begun to identify some of the underlying habits you need to do. Well, here's where it begins to become realistic and also something that you can do. Begin to create a logical grouping to you. This is for you, not for me, not for anyone else, of a bunch of smaller habits into a routine. So what that simply means is you're not just doing one habit, you're doing a couple things. So I'll give you some examples. So you begin to recognize that, maybe checking the balance, looking at the balance of your credit card as an example, looking at some of the activity while you have it out, maybe starting to think about how this fits in with your goals to try to reduce your debt. So you're doing a couple things that all at once, and you identify what they are. The part that makes this work is right here. You schedule a time for that routine. Again, what people often don't do. So to this little process that you need, this little subroutine, right? There's almost like a routine. It sounds like a computer program. There's a routine and a subroutine. You will schedule a time for it. So maybe you do it in the morning, right after breakfast. You do it, maybe this is something you do when you come home from work. Maybe you do this right after supper. So that's the trigger. Your goal is to link the new routine to something you already do. That's the key. So you always eat, right? You always have breakfast, right? You have a cup of coffee at 10 in the morning. Whatever it is you do, you're finding that's going to be your new trigger. And that trigger is what reminds you, oh, yeah. Whenever I have breakfast, I have to remember I have to dig out this report and take a look at it for 5 minutes. That's the thing you start to do, and then over time, it becomes just natural. You plan how you're going to complete the action. So it's something logically related to what, maybe not logically related. It's something that you link to something you already do, and it becomes logical and follows through over time. The other part of this is the trigger. The trigger is the thing that reminds you. Well, what is a trigger? These are all examples. So what's an existing habit? Now, again, I'm assuming for most folks, you take a shower, you shave, you're sitting at the kitchen table, you brush your teeth. These are all things that we do in the course of a day. You're going to start linking one or more of these routines to that. Maybe it's a specific time of day, not just an item or an action, but waking up, eating lunch after supper. So you might set the time, 7 o'clock or 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whatever it is you eat. It's easy to complete. I notice a lot of folks in their comments, oh, I can't do this. I'm fudging on my budget, I'm reading one. I know what I need to do, but I don't follow it. I'm trying not to overspend. Sticking to my goals is very tough. I'm limitations of poor decisions. Well, these are things we're trying to instill that make it less challenging for you to do it. So it's easy to complete. You don't do 10 new habits at once, you do 2 or 3 in a little routine. And then you learn it and then attach it. So it's not a new habit, it's linking your new routine to an existing one. So that, like I said, you give it a try. Let me give you an example of one. I have one ready for you. Try and show you how this might work. Here's a sample routine. Nice lady sitting here eating breakfast. She's probably doing her homework, but I'm saying she's doing her little financial habit routine. So after breakfast, her little routine is 5 things. Check my credit card balances. Look at my checking account balance. Because by knowing those, you'll be informed. A lot of things. What are they? Has anyone rated my account? If someone's going to rip you off, you're going to see an entry in your credit card statement or your checking account statement of this amount you don't recognize. So it helps you in a lot of ways. But knowledge is power here. You need to know what they are. Number 3, reviews yesterday's receipts. Stick them in a box. Part of a good budget habit is to know what you spend. So this is maybe when she decides to say, I have a box sitting in the corner. It's so simple. I'm going to take all my receipts out of my wallet, out of my purse from yesterday, and put them in this box. And that includes ATMs, by the way. One of the greatest places of loss of money is ATMs. You take cash out and you never know where the money goes. The cash is out of sight, out of mind. So keep a little notebook, keep a scrap of paper, get a receipt, take the ATM receipt and write on the back of it. You need to know where the money goes. But this is the time that she sticks it in the box so it's later on can be reviewed. Number 4, review my SMART goal actions that are due. So we went back and started out this talk today about SMART goals. So is there something due today? Is it due today? Is it due tomorrow? Am I getting ready for it? I have to get that car that we talked about. I know that I have to visit Cal's Cars or Marty's Motors. I'm supposed to go there and check this thing out. Well, is that something I can click off today? And then I like this one a lot, and that's this whole idea of to only encourage you more and keep your brain in this process, which is key. You maybe have a thermometer on the calendar, or on the refrigerator, and make this something you do with the kids because they still haven't gone to school yet, right? This is at breakfast. So you have a goal thermometer, and in this case here, I have $5,000 written on the goal. So maybe this woman is trying to save $5,000 for an emergency fund. So as she's looking at where things are, how much money she saved this month, where she's at, maybe they go in and color that next link from, I think it's at 1,000 right now. She colors in because they put 200 more in. She colors it in up to 1,200. It's a collective process. It gets them involved. It's something that encourages you because you can see you're getting progress towards your goal. All right, third item, feed the habit. So for a lot of folks, it's not enough, again, that you've done the first few things. Those are great. You know what your overall SMART goal is, big high level. You start to build the habits. You've started to then incorporate some of the habits and link the habits. So now you've got to continue to make it happen. Don't give up. Focus on this routine for at least 2 weeks or until it's automatic. So in this case, with this particular woman here that we just showed, she's linking something to her breakfast routine. Keep doing it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I think I said earlier, one study says you need about 21 days at least of doing something to make it become automatic. You want it to ultimately what? It has to click and stick. What does that mean? The click part is it clicks for you. Find the routine and parts that work for you. They make sense. They do something. They're useful. There's something pushing you in the right direction. You're not doing stupid stuff. You're doing stuff that helps you. And it sticks after you do it 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It begins to be automatic. And then what happens over time, you can add on to those automatic items because now you can build on it. We'll get to that in a bit. 2, design your environment for success. So if you know that in the morning you need these materials, have them in a desk drawer, a box or something in that area that's organized. You can quickly grab the materials that you need. You have your thermometer or other reminders sitting on the fridge or somewhere visual. Whatever works for you. Sticky notes. I happen to use a lot of sticky notes. I know that as I get older, I have to remind myself through notes. I mean, again, that's what works for me. I use something that works for me. I pay attention to the sticky notes, so they work for me. So I put something on them that says, you need to do the following 2 things. Number 1, pick this up. Number 2, make this phone call. Take that sticky note, stick it on something, let's say I'm going to take home with me out of work, a book that I'm taking home, and there it is on the front of the book. The reminder, do steps 1 and 2. Great. And it's successful because it works. It happens to work for me. Number 4, nourish the attractions, starve the distractions. Continue to understand and see what's working, what's helping you accomplish the goals. And start to take away those things that are stopping you. If you find something's taking you away from it, the TV is on, and you start to fade away and watch the TV or listen to music or play with the dog. Those things might be distracting you. You've got to give the full 5 minutes to this new routine. You want it to work, right? So the overall goal of doing this for 1 year or 6 months is made up of many little segments of 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there. Give the 5 minutes what they need. And then lastly, but not least, reward yourself. When you've been doing what you're doing, you know when you're working toward the goal, and you know what rewards you. So rest a few minutes, maybe before you go to work. Close your eyes, meditate. This is what I like to do when I can. And just close your eyes and think about good stuff. Maybe an extra cup of coffee. Go out on the deck. Go out on your porch. Go in the backyard. Sit in your favorite sunny room. Have a cup of coffee. Eat a healthy snack. Play a game on your phone. Whatever it is, you begin to now link the positives with what you've done that is working you in the right direction. Okay? I would say another little tip I throw in here, I didn't cover it, I kind of skipped it. Let others in is very key on your goals and new habits. So another way to help, not guarantee, but I would say greatly ensure success is don't keep this a secret. So by all means, have them in. I think there's a question I see. Rayanne, is there a question there?
There are a couple of questions I have here.
Okay, let's go with them.
Okay, here's question number 1. This is great if you are naturally disciplined, but what if you are not and your motivation lasts a short time?
Okay, well, that's a good question. A lot of this always comes down to motivation. So I would say for that person on the line that you've just got to make the items smaller and more attainable. So instead of shooting for the big wins, take it one step at a time, and the discipline is going to grow. You don't gain discipline or success all in 1 week. It happens over time. It happens step by step. And so what I would advise to that person is break it down even smaller. Sometimes, maybe I said for this person at their breakfast, and I'll go back to this for a second, maybe this is too many things for you to do. So I would say to that person, maybe you just do the number one only. Check my credit card balances. Find one thing that you'll do. Eventually, over 3 weeks, that leads to 2. And a month later, it leads to 3. It's a building process, and I suggest that you start by doing something that works for you. What's another question?
This is the second one. It's not really, it looks more like a comment. It says, groups help with accountability. Sometimes It's difficult doing this alone. I think that's more of a comment.
It is, and that's actually great. Thank you, Rayanne. That is what I was just going to mention as point number 3. Let others in on your goal and your new habits. By all means, everybody, let others in. This is no secret. So if you're trying to maintain a budget, if you're trying to buy a car, if you're trying to help pay down your debt, whatever your goals are, trying to save for an emergency fund, by all means, let the others around you, your family, your friends, those people who are in your house living with you, and maybe others who are outside. Let your colleagues know. And here's why it all makes a difference. If I'm trying to save money, as an example, and my colleagues like to go out to eat every Friday night to go have wings and maybe a couple beers together or something. It's a good camaraderie type of thing, right? But they know that I'm on a budget. They won't push me too hard on that. And maybe I have them come to my house for a change, or we go to a neutral place which doesn't involve spending money. And so having them work with me rather than against me. Let me tell you one of the greatest challenges, though, I've seen. So to be totally honest and transparent here, one of the biggest challenges I've seen with folks is if your partner, and again, whether you're married or not, is your significant other partner, is not in on this. Because many times in a household, it's a shared budget, and if the money is pooled, and if you have somebody who wants to save money and somebody, your significant other, who has no interest in doing it, I have to admit that's a very difficult situation. And I've had people come to me and say, I want to do this stuff with you, Peter, but in other words, I'm a counselor and a coach, but my significant other has no interest. And I said to him, I really don't have an answer for you or any suggestions unless you keep an entirely separate budget from them. So you have your own money, which you manage, and your own expenses, which you manage. That gets in sticky ground about whether people want to combine their money or keep it separate. So as a whole, letting people in on your goals is one way to socially have them support you and encourage you in your new habits and goals. And one last one I'll throw out there, because I heard this the other day. If you're really gutsy and you're on Facebook or something, put it out there on Facebook that, hey, I'm really trying to, and what's the goal? Maybe, again, maybe it's to save money or to get a car, a used car. You put it out there that I'm really interested in doing that, and you'll never know how many people can respond and support you on that. I know this person, I know that person, we happen to be trying to get rid of a car, I'll give it to you for free. In other words, networking, support, both verbal and sometimes financial, can come in as a result of that.
Those are really good insights.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to the last page I have here and end us on what I'm calling starving the bad habit, right? So hopefully you've been encouraging and growing and building slowly the good parts, the good habits, the small little changes that you add daily, right? And then they grow to weekly, then to monthly. What can we do to starve some of the things that get in the way? And that's where, again, I come back to these authors who are great. Livermore, this book, and the book, again, is called The Budgeting Habit. And they talk about some things you can do. So here's some things to help you. Various ideas. Reduce your eating out at night, right, in the PM, by making a few minutes of food prep time in the morning. So let me give you a good, realistic example of this, something my wife actually does, so I give her a lot of credit for this. She does it, she has the patience for it, and I understand that some people do and some people don't, but this is an example of what she does that saves us a lot of money. She recognizes the reality, and some of you say this too in your comments. You know, you come home at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, you're tired. Who feels like pulling a meal together? Family of a couple kids, the pressure's on, you're tired. What do? Everyone knows what we do. Many times we simply do takeout or we go out to eat. So if you would instill back up a little bit, and this is an example of putting a habit linked to your morning, where you take 10 minutes and you do this on the morning, or you even do it on a Sunday morning or a certain time on Sunday when things are not as jammed up. You do some food prep. So you grab a pound of hamburger beef, round it all up so it's all cooked, and put it into 5 or 6 baggies and put them in the freezer. Cook up a bunch of veggies. You can buy veggies that are so-called a little bit old. They look like peppers and onions. They're a little bit not as perfect. Buy them, slice them all up, cook all of them up in the morning. Maybe throw in a little garlic, a little bit of seasoning, and again, make 5 or 6 bags of those. Yeah, your morning smells a little different than at normal, but you've done that while you're crisp and ready and fresh. You've done that for 10 minutes. That 10 minutes is going to pay you off in time and in money throughout the rest of that week. So now when you come home that same night, you can grab a bag of beef, bag of veggies, throw in some noodles or some kind of other pasta in there. Before you know it, in 10 minutes, you got yourself a stir fry and you've saved money and time. Just an example of starving the bad habit of going out to eat, because that's the simple route to do. Overspending. I see it all the time. It's one of the biggest things I hear of from folks. It's on this list here. If I look at this list of things of what you wrote to me for this session, I'm working on not overspending. My problem is overspending, tracking spending, lofty goals. Another one says not spending my savings. Another one is keeping track of expenses. Another one, not enough of a gap between my bills and my income. Now, some of these we can solve, some we can't. I can't solve how much you make. but I can help you on what you spend. Here's a good one. Count to 30. You get people walking to the supermarket hungry, people walk in there without a list. You walk into Walmart without any specific thing you're trying to buy, and you see something and your emotions take over. Your stomach, your emotions, your I have to have that emotion. And the good thing from Trent Ham is count to 30. Wait a day, wait a week. You have to intervene. And what are you intervening with? Your brain. You're putting your brain in the equation and starting to think, what should I be doing here? If you go simply with impulses, I don't know what we can do. I don't know what I can say. You have to put your thinking and your brain into the equation and do the best you can to say, do I really need this item? Wait a day. Come back. If you really need it, it's a pair of shoes and you really, really need them, and after a day or a week you still need them, buy them. It's the fact that you went and bought something you didn't even know you needed 5 minutes ago. That's problematic. Number 3, resolve to be honest with yourself. Honesty is key to this whole thing. For folks that say they can't do things, for people that come back and say, I'm not able to do this, I fudge on my budget, somebody says here, sticking to my goals. Who are they fighting with? They're fighting with themselves. So the best policy, honesty is the best policy, is to keep yourself honest by writing things down. Jot it down. Carry a small notebook. When you get your ATM and you've taken 40 bucks or 60 bucks or 100 bucks out of the bank and now you have it in cash, don't let it just get lost in the sauce. Write down what became of that. And so here's the point. By the time you get to the end of your month, you will truly know where your money went. So I'm going to make a little plug here for budgets. Budgets are not restrictive and bad as some people think. Budgets are records that help you to answer this question. Where did your money go in the month of December? Where did your money go in the month of January? I'm not being judgmental. I'm asking, where did it go? Later on, when you look at that record of where it went, now you can make intelligent decisions in the quiet of your own home, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. You look at the list and you ask yourself, should I be spending on these things? What can I change? What do I need here? What could I do differently? Those are all tied with this. Carry the cash you plan to spend for the day. This is really good prior to Christmas shopping. It's very good for any times away you're on a budget, because cash is a limited commodity, as is your budget, by the way. Nobody, unless you're a multi-gazillionaire, everyone has to live within the money they make. You can't spend more than you make unless you use credit cards or other such things to bring you beyond what you make. But putting that aside for a second, if I know that I'm going to go out today and buy my food for the day, and I've budgeted $80 for my spend for this week, then you carry $80 in cash, period. And then you go out and buy your food. You can't spend more than you have. Credit cards, put them away, and I bring this up all the time. I love it. Take your credit cards and put them in water and stick it in the freezer. You just don't want them accessible. Do you still need them and have them? Of course you do. There's great uses for credit cards. They help you get over various humps. If all of a sudden your car tire blows and your car is what gets you to work each day, there's no negotiation there. You need the car tire. So by all means, use it. Short circuit the ease of spending. This is a good one for a lot of folks. I've said this before, but by taking the credit card number out of your phone and your laptop and your notepad e-memory, don't make spending so easy. Make spending harder. Because what people do is they get lulled into the habit, which is exactly what the credit card companies want you to do, to have it so painfully or so painlessly easy that spending money is like I don't know, making a piece of toast. It's so simple. It's pouring yourself a glass of water. It's so simple, anyone can do it. So by putting your credit card number in these memories, all you have to do is look at it and push a button. And then the box fairy delivers the stuff to your door the next morning. It's too easy. Short circuit this by taking the credit card numbers out of your phone and out of those places and make it a little bit harder for you to get them. And then finally, this is a good overall one, just defeat the unexpected. People say, oh, I never know this is going to happen, unexpected things. Well, here's the reality of life, okay? So we need to grow up. There's always, always, always going to be unexpected things in our future. I don't know anyone who I know that has a crystal ball and knows what the future will be. But we do know this. We do know things will show up in 2022 that you don't even know about today. So knowing that some things will come up and cost money, your best overall coverage is to have an emergency fund that is ready for those things that will come up. And this gives you a lot more leeway. This makes you less vulnerable. This helps you keep to your budget. It helps you keep track of the money, because that little unexpected pool of money, $1,000, $2,000, you decide, gives you that cushion for those things that are going to occur. So you starve the bad habits overall by recognizing yourself and be honest with yourself and put into place some habits that will make this work. I'm going to end with this and open it up for questions again to Rayanne. And then don't forget, you can always email me to pmullen@consumercredit.com. This is the summary for today. SMART goals are about knowing and identifying the when, who, what, and how of making something large work. The when, but we're breaking it into smaller pieces. When to start this? Now. Plan ahead. If you want to start recognizing your savings, your expenses, cyclical, periodic bills, you've got to start recognizing them and knowing them when they occur. The fact that periodic bills means there's things that happen not every month, but they might happen every 3 months, like a tax bill, or every once a year, such as an insurance bill. Start putting those into this month's budget. If you have a $1,200 insurance bill that comes due in November, you should be putting aside $100 per month for when that time comes. That's where your emergency fund or other types of fund comes into play. Who's involved? I say try to get as many people involved as is possible. Leverage your network, your friends, your colleagues at work. Help them all to know I'm trying to save money, or I'm trying to buy this car, or I'm trying to whatever, fill in the blank. I'm trying to put a down payment on a house. So have them work with you, not against you. And your spouse or partner really does have to be on board. What you might end up having to do potentially is the best thing you might do is compromise. You want to save $5,000, they want to save $2,000. You split the difference and you say, well, let's save $3,000. But you've got to have them involved and on board. The what part of this is to build and reinforce new habits. You're trying to build habits that stick. Remember, stick and click for you. And never stop asking questions about the process. Continue to work at it, research it, and do what you can. And recognize you're not going to get it all right at start. Your SMART goal can change over time. That's fine. It can change. Adjust it. Adjust it till it works and reward your progress. And finally, how? It's a matter of, number one, you start your SMART goals. Let's not forget how we started today. Do the best you can. Learn and follow the steps. But put your brain in gear. Your brain should be part of the process when you're out and about, in the store, looking at that nice dress or those pair of shoes or that nice pair of mittens you think is great. Don't just pick it up and run with it. Think about it. Do I have alternatives? You have to be ready to walk away from these impulsive actions. Stop and think, and these are ways to make it all happen. I end you by just saying these are some of the main references I had today. great ones. The Budgeting Habit I talked about, Budgeting 101 is another one, and then 10 Steps for Making a Successful Budget by my buddy Trent Ham. Good guy. And we've come to the end of our session here. I thank you all so much for attending, for your attention, and for your good questions at the very, very beginning. Have a good day, rest of your day, and I wish you the best of luck, but also sweat equity in making some of these habits begin to be part of your life. Thank you.